the book, it listed 35 old-fashioned courting tips. And it became a hot seller for years, man. And all it did was tell you things that we already know. And a lot of it based on principles that God would want you to do, such as women play hard to get. Now, the Bible doesn't say that. But it's like, you women, don't be the aggressors. Amen. That's what that means. I mean, don't be out there chasing like it's like a mad hunt, and you are like this roaring lion and devouring any man you can get, okay? This one said, go back to old-fashioned ways. Let me tell you something, guys. If you have a girl that's hot and heavy chasing after you, you better be careful. Because the Bible calls it a Jezebel spirit. Right. Because their goal is to try to get a guy and try to seduce him. That is so here's this book, New York bestseller, that's telling girls, don't be the aggressor. Play hard to get. In other words, you're not supposed to stand around girls with your tongue hanging out and waving whatever and hoping and flaunting and trying to get somebody to pay you attention. You have more value than just a piece of meat, like what they do with women in Amsterdam. In windows, having them stand there and try to seduce men as they walk through the area. I'll never forget, and this wasn't part of my notes, I was with my husband and we were traveling back, this was years ago when we were coming back from Pakistan. Wow, 20 over years already, maybe 25. And meeting my father and my mother in Amsterdam, and then picking them up and driving them through the Black Forest and through many of the places in Europe. We had never done it. We just bought a book, but we convinced my parents we knew what we were doing. And so they met us, and we planned read the little book and told them how we would take them everywhere. Well, we ended up in Amsterdam spending the night, and every day we would just find a cheap place to put our head type of deal. And we were on a budget, and my parents had a credit card, so it was a match. And so we were traveling with Mom and Dad, and we got to Amsterdam, and my father's very naughty because my father doesn't go to church, and he, at the time, of course, he's constantly tormenting Brother Willoughby, trying to tell him a dirty joke or whatever, just to see his reaction. And when they went in Amsterdam, my father had already been out and been walking around in Amsterdam. It's a very wicked place. And my dad said, Steve, let's go out for a walk. And so Steve, being Mr. Innocent, and he still is very innocent, he said, sure, Dad. And my dad got him up and he walked him and took him around, and before long he had him in the red light district in Amsterdam. And he knew exactly where to take him so that when he walked down the street, he would be right there in front of the windows with all these women standing in it. And my father still thinks that is the funniest story of what he did, Steve's reaction when he got to Amsterdam. So what am I telling you? That is the world. That was the world 20 years ago. How much more is it now? How much more evil has it gotten? Even the law of thermodynamics, isn't it? That everything breaks down? Things don't get better. I mean, come on, we're living in reality here. If it was that wicked before, if it was wicked when I was a young girl and girls were getting pregnant, my top one student, one of the 1% students, who was my best friend when I was in school that I ran around with, she ended up pregnant when I was 13 years old. Blew me out of the water. She was from an excellent home. How did that happen? It came by just casual dating. There are dangers. So this book was saying, don't call him. Oh, that's a concept. I don't even know if that concept's even available in society today. Girls, don't call him. Don't see him more than once or twice a week. Oh my God, isn't this interesting? Don't open the door too fast. Not when you're in a car. Okay, you know what I'm talking about. Don't live with him before marriage. This is a New York bestseller that was on the bestseller list, that people were reshaping their whole concept about dating from a book that was full of godly principles. So we want to talk about choosing God's best. Would you give me slide 1? Are you worried about how you're going to find what God's best is? Let's read the scripture, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know The plans I have for you, declared the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. I would like in the next 4 weeks for you to memorize that scripture. It's very important that you know that, because there's going to become many times that you will have question marks, and what should you do, and which way should you go? You need to say that scripture. I know that you know which way I'm supposed to go. I know you have plans for me. Hey, I am 49 years old, and when I get a decision back from the government that says I cannot buy the house I thought I was going to buy, I have to lean on. He has a plan for you. Tell your neighbor that. And he's not going to hurt you. And he's not going to torture you. You know how Brother Willoughby told this story that he doesn't take you to youth camp and say, you, see that ugly girl over there? You marry her. And you, see the ugly boy? You marry him. And you're, no. No, he doesn't do that to you. God has a beautiful future and a hope that will fit the perfect way he created you. So if dating is so wonderful, I have a question for you. If that's what society says we should all be doing, you should all be dating, you should be finding someone, you should be developing your social skills, you should do it, and you should progress. If that's so wonderful, here's my question. Why does it hurt so much? How many of you have had friends who have dated and then have been hurt by it? Would you be honest? Is there anybody, let me put your hands down, let's put it the other way. Is there anybody here who has either A, dated and been hurt, never been hurt, or don't know anything about it, or never had a friend who has been hurt by it? Would you raise your hand that you only know dating to have been a wonderful experience? Now, let's put our hands up the other way. How many of you have been hurt or know somebody who has been hurt by the dating process? Well, there you go. So why do we date? Why does society keep basing this upon a century, a decade of failure? Can we see the second slide? Here are 10 of the most common answers that they should. So do you do it if they, your old standby? If your friend tells you to jump off a bridge, do you do it? I mean, that's very simplistic in thought, but we do not base our decisions. An educated person does not base their decisions because somebody tells them to do it. We are an educated society. Let's progress and let's not digress. Because they're determined to live life according to their own schedule and not God's. Why do I say that? Because some people say, I want to date now, and I don't care that if this isn't God's way to go about it. This is what I want, and I'm going to determine my own schedule. I'm going to do it on my own way. Now, I have to say, I can cite you case after case. I could even name you people who have chosen that. And I can tell you the pathetic outcome of the decision. I don't brag on it. I'm just telling you, unfortunately, to my heartbreak, what I have said would happen has happened. I do not like prophesying doom. But sure enough, as people do not follow the principles that I have tried to help them with regarding dating, and they say, I will do it my own way, according to my own schedule, they have ended up losing out on many areas of their life. And it's happened time and time again. And the exact same things I've said, they do it, and it is exactly almost like I wrote the rest of their life out for them. It's not me that's doing it. It's because that's how plain God's principles are, okay? They want to develop social skills and emotional health. Okay, how do you develop emotional health when you end up with hurt and pain and bitterness and confusion and scarring? Is that emotional health? It's kind of an oxymoron. You know what I mean? Next slide. They want to have certain needs met until a marriage partner can be found. Those needs usually are lust related because your other needs can be met by Christ, can't they? Your social